Hi, I'm Johnny Smith, host of the Inquisitive Minds podcast. Join me while we interview all manner of interesting people from all walks of life. Some conspiracy, some cryptozoology, and just some things that are just plain interesting. Every week, I'll have someone with me who is an expert in their specific field.
This is the Inquisitive Minds podcast.
Hey, thank you for tuning into the Inquisitive Minds podcast. I'm your host, Johnny Smith. With me today, I have a very special guest of mine. He is a stand-up comedian. Right now, he is also a working laborer, and anyone in the Pittsburgh comedy scene will know he is a fun conspiracy theorist. Trevor Austin, welcome to the program.
Yo.
How are you doing today, brother?
Dude, I'm loving this space.
Yeah? You
I
like
really
it in
am.
here?
This is great, man. This is absolutely awesome.
It's a pretty dope setup, man. How you been living during the quarantine?
Yo, man, it's strange. It feels like 7 full lifetimes, you know? Like I feel like I've been through like 2 full breakups and a reunion. I've been through
Right on.
you know, like I spent like 60 days sober, 60 days drunk, you know, like I've lived full different lifetimes, I feel like. And you look at it as like this year is going by so fast, but every day feels like it's 40 hours long, you know?
Yeah. It's been quite a long time for such a short period of time. Today, folks, we are discussing the moon landing. I will die on this hill. I think we went to the moon, and I'm behind that 100%. I believe my guest today disagrees.
Well, you're more convicted than I am because I won't die on the hill, but I will say that I am at best 50-50, you know?
This is a hill I will die. So it goes on July 20th, 1969. American astronauts Neil Armstrong and Edwin Buzz Aldrin became the first humans to ever land on the moon. About 6.5 hours after they landed, Armstrong became the first person to walk on the moon. As he took the first step, Armstrong famously said, "This is one small step for man, one giant leap for mankind." And that was the Apollo 11.
Yeah.
That's how the official story goes.
Yeah.
And I take it you have discrepancies, and I don't know if you want me to start with your discrepancies or you just want to bring up issue by issue.
It's an interesting thing. Full disclosure, people know, like, I am a wild conspiracy theorist.
Yes.
I'm a loud and proud, out in front conspiracy theorist. And when people have gotten on me, like people I respect and people who are friends with me, they'll pull me aside as if they like really give me like a care troll. Do you know what I mean? It's like, I'm worried about you, man. And it's like, honestly, I tell people, chill out. Like, I don't watch Marvel movies.
Okay.
You know? I've never seen one of them.
Highly disappointed.
I know, right? But like, you really like those things, right?
Love them.
That, to me, is what a conspiracy theory is. It's a movie I watch before bed. You know, it's just like, oh, I dig this. I dig the characters.
No, that's fair enough. That's fair enough.
And so there are some that I'll watch. I'll invest a week, like, researching a conspiracy theory that I damn well know is false.
Well, if you've tuned into Inquisitive Minds before, we're very open-minded here. You know, I will entertain just about everything if you have enough information on it and believe in it and want to discuss it.
Yeah.
And if someone came to me and wanted to discuss the moon being hollow or the moon being a secret base or the moon even being fake,
Yeah.
I would entertain that. However, the idea that we did not land on the moon drives me up a wall. You have a joke about a song about us not landing on the moon.
Yeah.
And it's a funny song, but every time I hear it, it makes me want to throw a chair at the stage.
Oh, I've had some people get really upset about it, dude, which is surprising because of all the shit I say on stage. I'm like, this is your grievance?
Yep.
You know, this is what got you? You know what I mean?
The moon landing is the thing that gets me.
Yeah, I say offensive shit all the time, and people will come up and bring up the moon landing. Anytime someone is that passionate about a narrative, I have questions about that, too. It's just like, wait, why would that bring so much of your worldview into question? But what I was saying is I believe in a lot of conspiracies. I'll follow conspiracies I don't believe. What I like to think of as the moon as like a conspiracy theory purist.
Okay.
That's a nice jumping off point for me because I feel like, let's say you're closed-minded to conspiracies. I feel like the easiest one for me to get you to think maybe we didn't is the moon. You know, or there's Kennedy, there's 9/11, and then you get into like the darker of the Pizzagate and the weather and like is the Earth flat?
Well,
that's level 10. Moon is level 1.
In discussing our talking points beforehand, you had mentioned Gus Grissom.
Yeah.
You want to bring him up?
If you want to start on Gus Grissom.
Yeah, we'll start
okay,
on
so
Gus
Grissom, you started in 1969, right? Let me take you back to 1968 when the first man who was supposed to walk on the moon was hero Gus Grissom. Now, Gus Grissom was the poster boy of the NASA program. He was it. He was going to be Neil. You know how you just like, you know, there's been 12 men who walked on the moon, right? Okay, name more than 2. You know,
I can't.
Yeah, it's always Neil Armstrong and Buzz Aldrin.
It's
Buzz
first.
Aldrin because he's a badass and drunk and punches people at bars.
Right on.
You know Neil Armstrong because he's the first guy who went on the moon. You don't even know those other 12 guys.
I reached out to Neil Armstrong's nephew.
What?
About this episode, and he like hasn't gotten back to me like for his more in depth, possibly coming on the show. But what his response was like, he was baffled that someone would even question the legitimacy.
Oh wow! Neil Armstrong's nephew has never heard of the
moon
landing conspiracy.
I'm sure he's heard of it.
He's like, oh, I'm so appalled. You mean
like,
there's people who think we didn't go?
If you know
yes.
that you've done something, and someone's telling you to your face that you didn't do it, that's going to incite you.
Okay, well, I'm in a pretty tough spot here because I have to prove a negative. Like, prove you didn't punch me outside. It's like, you know, prove you did. The burden of proof should be on that. It's very difficult to prove a negative, but I'm going to do my best here to at least draw a negative into question.
So Gus Grissom was supposed to be the first man on the moon.
He was supposed to be Neil Armstrong. He was a heavy critic of the NASA program, the NASA Apollo program. Mm-hmm. Heavy critic of it. He hung a lemon on the lunar lem a week. Yeah, he hung it to say, in other words, to say this thing isn't going anywhere. Mm-hmm. Warner von Braun, one of the founders of the NASA program, who was a Nazi scientist. So, like, we already know NASA's capable of lying. They did Operation Paperclip, which isn't a conspiracy.
Yeah,
we all agree and know
it's
and
real.
have declassified. That's real.
Mm-hmm.
So we're dealing with liars. Okay. You know what I mean? And Gus Grissom hung a lemon on the lunar lem. Oh, I was going to say, Warner von Braun said in 1965, we would need a rocket the size of the Empire State Building to go to the moon, and we are years away from it. And then all of a sudden, we happen to be there. But Gus Grissom hangs a lemon on the thing. It's like a big insult. This is 1965. That's like, you know, calling you a goober, you know. He says, we're not going. This thing's a piece of junk. He dies on the launch pad like a week after that incident. It almost speaks to, if you have a vivid imagination, it almost speaks to an environment of like intimidation. You know what I mean? These people aren't going to speak up. Neil Armstrong gave like 3 interviews his entire life. A man who achieved the greatest accomplishment in the history of mankind. He went up to that rock. No one else has done it but our 12 astronauts. No one else. And Neil Armstrong walked on that rock. He gives 3 interviews. His interviews have so many inconsistencies. If you want to watch these things, when he first came back from the moon,
let's not jump ahead here.
Okay, yeah, I'm going to do that a lot. Here. Fair warning.
I actually have quite a bit of information on Gus Grissom.
Yeah.
Because that sent me into a bit of a spiral. And I will say up front, I do believe he was murdered. I believe he was murdered by NASA. I will say that. I do not believe it was related to him walking on the moon, or he was murdered to be kept quiet, and I'll explain that a little bit more. First, I want to give you guys some backstory, because as you said, he was a hero, and God damn it, if this man wasn't an American hero. Virgil Ivan Gus Grissom was a medical engineer and United States Air Force test pilot, World War II, and Korean War veteran. He was a recipient of the Distinguished Flying Cross, the Air Medal with an oak leaf cluster, 2 NASA Distinguished Service Medals, and posthumously, I don't know if I'm saying that right.
Posthumously,
After he died,
perfect.
He got the Congressional Space Medal of Honor, which honestly, up until yesterday, I didn't know was a thing.
Yeah.
But I'm sure it's impressive. But Gus was the member of Mercury 7, which was selected by NASA as the Project Mercury astronauts to be the first Americans in space. He was a Project Gemini, an Apollo program astronaut. He was the second American to fly into space, and the second to fly into space twice. Fun little fact there. January 27th, 1967, during a pre-launch test of the Apollo 1, it was like a simulation.
Yeah.
They weren't even scheduled to launch for another month. This was just a mock,
Yeah.
launch just to go through everything. At Cape Kennedy, the command module interior caught fire, killing Grissom, as well as Roger Chaffee. I hope I'm saying that name right. And Edward White. And first off, it's unfortunate those three died. I want to make it clear that it's said that as they died holding their composure and operating properly up until their last breath.
You bet your ass
So,
they did.
all
That's
three
Gus
of you,
Grissom, an American
thank you
hero.
for your service. And you know what? I believe NASA murdered him.
Okay, so we're dealing with murderers here.
Yeah, I
Yeah.
got some more. He was
interesting.
frustrated with the program at this point. Like, that.
Yeah,
You just
very
mentioned that.
frustrated with the program.
You mentioned he hung the lemon. He called it, and this is a quote, a bucket full of screws.
Yeah. I mean, look at the thing, dude. It looks like you gave some 7th grader on Adderall a bunch of tinfoil and glue. It does not look like that thing could make it through the Van Allen radiation belts.
And this is what adds to conspiracy theory. He told his wife if there was ever an accident in NASA, it would involve him.
Yeah.
And he told this to her maybe a week or so before his death.
There was most certainly a hot energy going on between him and his employers at that time.
Now, you also mentioned there was a safety inspector. There was one safety inspector. His name was Thomas Ronald Barron. And he worked for the NAA, I guess, just the overseeing organization. And he was very critical of NASA and their procedures. He even put out a 55-page report discussing the shortcomings and the problems of NASA safety procedures, whatnot. He even testified before Congress. And this is him. He said, under current circumstances at NASA, we would never make it to the moon. Now, I just like to highlight that he said under current circumstances. There's a lot of phrases and conspiracy theorists take, and they change it around, they paraphrase, and they use it as proof. Now, when someone like that says we would never make it to the moon, under the current circumstances, absolutely true. That's why we're learning and evolving and changing and growing as a human, not even just as a company. But more on that later. He was actually fired, this Thomas Barron.
Yeah.
Big surprise, and dismissed. Fired and dismissed. Years later, top-level officials actually verified the credibility of over half of his claims, so he wasn't completely wrong.
Yeah.
And after the Apollo 1 incident, he began to turn that 55-page report into a 500-page report to expose NASA and the NAA of their failures.
Yeah.
This was big. This was an American hero that died.
We sure turned it around quick from there, huh?
Yeah. So within a week,
we can't even run a mock drill without killing our A-team astronauts, and 4 years later we're on the moon.
Well, there's still a little bit more to that. Within a week, him and his family were dead. Yeah.
Yeah, there's car accidents.
Well,
and all kinds of
his
stuff.
car was struck by a train.
Yeah, I thought so.
And it was ruled accidental with no autopsy. There was also men who discussed his mental health, saying he was impulsive. Mind you, he was an engineer and a safety inspector. Some even said he tried to race the train. I don't think this very practical man would did that.
Yeah.
I think he was suicided.
Yeah. Okay, dude, it's hard for me then to gain the trust of anything these people say. It's like this is dirty shit.
I know I'm not painting him in a good light right now.
Yeah,
but
man.
This is almost like a mini conspiracy onto itself, because I don't think it has much to do with the moon. But in 1999, the module that he died in,
Yeah.
the module that he died in was actually opened up, and a switch was discovered under a panel that was thought was the cause of the spark.
Okay.
Yeah, so that's what caused it, and it looked like it was a purposeful switch put in there to cause that. And honestly, his only shortcoming in his career came with the botched Liberty Bell 7 landing. He was outspoken with his frustration. It was a capsule when it came back in. It was on July 21st, 1961. He flew into space, about a 15-minute flight, a little bit over. And then coming back in, the landing was botched, and they were blaming the failure on his inability to execute protocol properly. Now, he swears that the door just swung open. And to his credit, it was later discovered to be a faulty mechanism in the capsule hatch release. But that capsule, he almost died, and that capsule was lost in sea for 38 years.
Oh, they found it, though?
After 38 years. And
You
the
know
thing,
more about this than I do.
well, the thing about Gus is this plagued him for years. Not only, like, the people that worked with him or the American public looked at him as being in the wrong, but he said, through all of my missions, that was the only vessel I ever lost. And that haunted him. But, like, they blamed him for that. So that was his fault. Between that, and it wasn't his fault, but it was perceived to be his fault.
Yeah, it was his
Between
responsibility.
that and his very public, disgust with the program, I believe he was murdered. But, like I said, I don't think that has anything to do with the actual moon landing.
Other than the fact that
It's just a NASA situation.
So you think he was murdered?
I think he was
by
murdered.
the people at NASA?
Yes.
And these are the people that take credit for the moon landing. So there's the connection to it.
No,
It's
no,
like,
I get that.
These are murderers.
It's just we live in a world where people aren't always black or white. They can do good
They can
things.
be Asian.
That's fine. They can do good things while still being bad people.
Yeah.
Vice versa.
100%.
Or even organizations.
Yeah. Yeah, definitely.
So, but that was what I had to say about Gus. Like, I just wanted to point that out, that I didn't think that was involved in any way.
That's established.
Okay.
Okay. It's really hard to pick a starting point. One thing that I like to go to is, okay, since 1972, no man has been more than 460 miles into space.
Okay.
Since 1972 is the last time we went more than 460 miles. Do you know how far away the moon is? 238,000 miles away is how far the moon is. So I can't think of any other example throughout all of history where technology rolls backwards like that.
How do you say it rolls backwards? Like, just because, let me ask you this. You know what? Before we go on even further, I just want to give a little brief origins of the moon landing conspiracy.
Yeah.
Kind of where it started from, because they got to start somewhere.
Yeah.
And I'll set the scene for you. This was recently the Pentagon Papers were released.
Yeah.
Nixon resigned. There were big distrust in the government, new wave.
Enormous.
Even more so, I think now that kind of planted the seeds for a healthy distrust in government.
Yeah, if you're trying to set the setting, this is 1969. This is the first time the American people ever had this level of distrust in their government. There's the Vietnam War.
This origin is a little bit further ahead than that.
Yeah.
Because I don't want to get too ahead of myself.
Trying to see who exposed it.
Former U.S. Navy officer Bill Casing, self-published, and that's important. Self-published a book titled "We Never Went to the Moon." I've heard that before.
Yeah, right.
We Never Went to the Moon, America's $30 Billion Swindle. He published that in 1976 with his co-author, Randy Reed. I hope I'm saying that correctly. And in it, they describe a government conspiracy to cover up a moon landing, to fake a moon landing, with absolutely no evidence whatsoever, and false claims throughout the whole book. I say NASA lacked the technical expertise to perform something like that. But how do you know what they're capable of on the inside when you're looking at the outside? I can't tell you what you can do.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? So it's like a lot of the moon landing is just fucking speculation.
What's wild is, okay, there's an astronaut named Donald Pettit. To speak to what you're talking about, Donald Pettit, who is a chemical engineer, and he's an astronaut who's spent years in the space station, et cetera, et cetera. And you can see him on film say, when they ask him, why haven't we been to the moon since 1972? And he said, I would love to go to the moon. I'd go back in a nanosecond. But the technology, due to budgetary reasons, the technology we used to go to the moon, we had to be destroyed. They destroyed the technology, and they can't build it back, and he says it's cost prohibitive. Another thing that blows my mind on where's the proof that we went? Okay, well, here's things like I was talking about proving a negative. The telemetry data, which is the binary code, the ones and the zeros of how far the ship is away from the Earth at all times, and it's a computer readout of the journey. It is 1 metric ton. There are, I had it written down of how many, 13,000 reels of telemetry data. Mm-hmm. It went missing. It should be locked in a golden vault in Fort Knox, man. That shit is it's the greatest accomplishment in history.
See, the thing about
they lost it.
The thing about this conspiracy is that it pulls from so many, because if it's lost and it's proven that it's lost, that has nothing to do with us landing on the moon. That is just bad government oversight.
It's the
That's
only
bad
thing
handling.
they couldn't fake, really. They can fake a lot of the other stuff. The telemetry data would be the most difficult thing to fake. So it's
I
we
do
have
want to say
pictures.
it is very cost prohibitive to go back and forth to the moon. When we went in '69, it was the equivalent, and I think my numbers are accurate here, of $424 billion.
Yeah.
And at the time, it was important. It was a priority. We were in a space race against the USSR.
Yeah.
You know, morale was huge. These people went up. They're fucking American heroes. Now, we have no clue what astronauts go into space to work on satellites. We don't know these people. They were rock stars back then.
What you're showing me is motive, because we
That's
still
definitely-
give $24
it's-
billion a year to NASA.
$24 billion is a lot different
Yeah,
from $424
they still come
billion.
out and say we plan on going to the moon the 2017. Well,
Mike
they're
Pence
telling us they're going to Mars.
put out we sent rovers to Mars. And that's
You
the
can
thing.
send a rover. You
And-
can't send a person
and-
through the Van Allen belt. That's the big linchpin.
Yes, you can. I'm glad you mentioned the Van Allen belts. You want to go ahead and mention them?
Van Allen belts, which is a ring of radiation that wraps around the Earth. It starts 1,000 miles away. According to NASA, they are 24 miles thick. According to James Van Allen, the guy who discovered them, says that they are 67 miles thick of extreme radiation. Russia was trying to send monkeys to the moon, and they couldn't do it. They would get burned up. They sent them in this aluminum little crate through that radiation, and during that period, there was a 20-year period of solar flares happening. Any solar flare is going to fry those people to bits in a aluminum ship.
You good to go?
Yeah.
The Van Allen belts, just simplify it, 2 zones or regions of intense radiation,
Yeah.
partly surrounding the Earth at heights of several thousand kilometers. We can both agree with that.
Yeah.
Okay. Now there's 2 of them that they don't fully encircle it,
Yeah.
and there's a third one that rotates from time to time. Like sometimes it's there, sometimes it's not. I'm not a scientist,
Yeah, I'm
so I
far-
can't
far
fully
from it. Yeah.
explain all that. I will say though, I looked into this, and this was actually one of the more simpler things to debunk as far as conspiracy theory.
Yeah.
The first thing and foremost is it's a different type of radiation than what we're used to.
Yeah.
And if I get these reversed, forgive me, but the radiation we think about here on Earth is like electromagnetic waves.
Mm-hmm.
Microwaves, atomic bombs, shit like that. That radiation is made up of charged particles.
Yeah.
It's different. It's very different. Not saying it won't hurt you.
Yeah. Yeah.
It's just it's different. So that being said, with proper adjustments and studying, first and foremost, they didn't go straight through where all the heaviest radiation is.
Yeah.
That's absurd.
Yeah, they say they went up through
They
a
they
different
went
route
through a route,
that
and
Russia couldn't figure out.
Well,
and their space program, they had the 10
you don't
first in
believe
space.
you don't
First
believe in
man.
American superiority?
Exceptionalism. But yeah, the Russia had the first man in space, first dog in space, first woman in space. They had the first satellite launch. They had all these different things, and yet they had no clue how to get through those radiation belts, and we figured it out. And another thing is, why didn't they, like you say, it's so cost prohibitive, and I understand that. Russia didn't end up going. They were already working on it. What, they just took it as a loss?
Yeah,
all
they
that
lost,
money?
man. They lost.
You
You ain't first
still
or
wanna
last.
Go. Yeah,
If you ain't
that's-
first
I
or
guess
last.
that's the spirit.
The
But
radiation-
China doesn't want to go.
No, the radiation.
They've been saying they're going.
The radiation they went through, because they did go through
Yeah.
the Van Allen belts. The radiation they went through, and they changed. I don't have all this in front of me, but they changed structures of the ship. They changed alloys, things to adjust for this. Because, like you said, they tested things first.
Yeah, they couldn't get it done.
We sent more simians. The Russians sent more dogs. They sent a total of 57 dogs in space.
Those poor fucking dogs.
We started sending macaques.
Yeah.
Fascinating. But anyways, the radiation was cut down to 1 to 5% of what they could have been exposed to. Like, so with the suits, with the spaceship, with the way they were flying, it was cut down immediately down to 1 to 5%. The Apollo missions, like I just said, this didn't go through the Van Allen belts directly. They flew around the most deadly areas and were not exposed to the more dangerous. They had less dangerous levels of radiation, and it wasn't for long. I want to say it was 3.5 hours on the way there and 2.5 hours on the way back. The amount of radiation they took in that is equivalent to a CT scan today.
Well, another thing is if you put a film reel through a CT scan, it can fuck it up.
Yeah.
We got those film reels back plenty fine.
Yeah. No, there's believe me.
Okay, so we've covered the Van Allen belts and established. I don't know what the hell I'm talking about with the Van Allen belts. I'm not an expert on that. I've read the words and written them down and recited them. Now, I do know a little bit about broadcast, and maybe here at the studio we could actually have some insight on that, I'm sure. Because something that has always irked me is we were live broadcasting from the moon in 1969, live broadcast. Do you realize where's the power source? That would take 150,000 volts. They're up there with 12. It's unbelievable to me. The tape delay would be unbelievable. When you're watching a game at a stadium today, there's a 10-second tape delay. I find it absolutely appalling that they're going to try to say they had a live broadcast feed from the moon in 1969. Where's the equipment?
This is from men much smarter than myself.
Yes.
I knew this question was coming.
Yeah.
And I prepared for it. There will be pauses in between, but as you can see,
oh goodness, you got
I have a fucking answer on how it was broadcast. The solution was called Unified S-Band, or USB. It combined tracking, ranging, command, voice, and television data into a single antenna. Voice and biomedical data were transmitted at a 1.25 megahertz FM subcarrier. Telemetry was done on a 1.024 megahertz biphase modulated subcarrier, and the two spacecraft, the command and the lunar modules, would use a pseudo-random ranging code using common phase modulated S-band downlink frequency of 2287.5 megahertz for the CSM and 2282.5 megahertz for the LM. In short, every type of information traveling between the ground and moon-bound spacecraft had its place, except for the televised broadcast. Now, did any of that make sense to you?
Very little, if I'm going to be honest.
Does it sound?
It might as well have been Japanese.
Okay,
yeah, I'll trust it. He sounds like he knows what he's talking about more than I do, and that's the whole thing with all this is like. I don't know what I'm talking about. I'm well aware of that. But you don't necessarily have to know what you're talking about to walk in a room and be like, it smells like someone took a shit in here. You know what I mean? You can feel, like, to me, there's so many different holes and questions. And, like, they had motive. These are murderers we just established.
You know why it stinks in here?
Why is that?
Because I'm the shit.
No, you got it. But you know what I'm saying? That there's motive and... I
got some more for you.
Yeah, keep going.
To free up space for a television downlink, from the lunar module, NASA removed the ranging code and changed the modulation phase from phase to frequency. That freed up 700 kHz, kilohertz? I don't know what those are.
I don't know what that is, too.
A bandwidth for a television downlink on the USB signal. The problem was this wasn't enough bandwidth for the standard video camera of the day. And that transmitted 525 scan lines of data at 30 frames per second at 5 megahertz. Instead, NASA would need a slow scan camera optimized for smaller format. 320 scan lines of data at 10 frames per second that could be transmitted at just 500 kilohertz.
Seems like a lot to put into making sure we can show people while we were up there.
It was very important.
You know what I mean?
They had a burden of proof. They had to prove. I'm glad I put this in paragraph format because it's allowing me to jump in and out of my explanation. Now, with the guidelines for the camera set, NASA awarded 2 contracts. One went to RCA for the command module camera. Another went to Westinghouse's Electric Aerospace Division for the lunar module camera. Now, the Westinghouse slow-scan lunar camera was designed by Stan Lieber, program manager of the Apollo TV lunar camera. It was small, lightweight camera designed to withstand the punishing forces of the launch, the subsequent sudden weightlessness, and the striking temperature differences in space. It was also simple and maneuverable enough for astronauts to use it with their bulky gloves on. See, we're getting somewhere here.
Yeah.
They were working on something.
So, yeah, that was clear. Like, it seems strange to me that, like, it's almost like you're covering for a lie ahead of time. Like, Let's make sure we bring the live camera feed up
Well,
there.
well,
It
the
seems
thing
like
is-
we're struggling to accomplish mankind's greatest accomplishment ever.
With a
going to the
conspiracy
moon.
theorist, there's
this
no
happened
win.
in 1970.
There's
dude.
no win.
We lost.
'Cause
We
you're
have,
like-
we have Abe Lincoln's hat sitting in the Smithsonian, but we lost the telemetry data, and the original copies of the film were reportedly sold at a yard sale.
There's
we
no
only have copies.
There's no winning with a conspiracy theorist because you'll say, "Prove it. Where's the science behind it?" And I'll say, "Here's the science behind it." And you'll say, "Oh, seems like they're overcompensating for something." Well,
I suppose.
You know.
Well, there's the science in 1969. You would think we'd have an app on our phone to go back to the moon today. This is 50
what's the pro?
years ago.
What do we gain right now from going to the moon today? What do we gain right now today if we go
It's
into
a
the moon?
military advantage for one thing. There's
We got satellites. We have military satellites up there. We don't need to have a
I don't
torrent.
know, dude, people
on the
are
moon.
still going to Mount Everest. You know what I mean?
Yeah,
and when
that's
they
an
say cost
accomplishment.
prohibitive,
That's a
I
human
would be,
accomplishment.
I would give
That's
every,
apples to oranges.
I would give every single personal item I own to be able to go on the moon for 5 minutes, just so I could run real fast
That's
and
why
jump twice
private
as high.
companies are working at it. Elon Musk is your guy.
Been working at it and
You
working
know,
at it,
what
but
is
no
it?
one
Richard
goes.
Branson. He's your guy because
Yeah.
it's so fucking
Someone
expensive.
would have been.
It's so goddamn expensive.
I suppose. I mean, I look at it as, shouldn't it be cheaper? All technology has gotten cheaper, more accessible. It should be cheaper than it was in 1970.
I don't know, man. I feel like 12 people only doing it. It's not really opening up the market to make it mass producible.
12 people in a 3-year period, and then all of a sudden, not only have we not been back to the moon, no one's been beyond 460 miles outside the atmosphere since then. That's the farthest they've gone, is 460 miles. And you mean to tell me that we made 3 successful trips, or what was it, 4?
6.
6 successful trips. Yeah, there's one guy on the ship and then 2 walk each time. Okay, 6 successful trips between 1969 and 1972, 238,000 miles away. Wouldn't they just send a manned probe to fly out and turn around and fly back more than 400 miles? 238,000 miles away we wandered up to the moon safely in that little thing. And then all the propulsion it takes to get up to the moon. And then we just take this little lunar lem and pop it back.
It wasn't always safely. We talked about Gus dying.
Yeah.
Apollo 13
Yeah.
barely made it back. Well, Tom Hanks
Yeah.
wasn't on there, but they barely made it back. And then I know I'm going to get the name wrong, but the Challenger something in '86
Yeah.
that had the teacher on it and whatnot that
you
exploded.
opened up a whole can
you
of
know,
worms on
but-
this one, bro. You didn't prepare for the Challenger.
Well, because we're not talking about the Challenger.
Oh, the
we're
Challenger
talking about
will
the
blow
moon
your mind,
landing.
though. That conspiracy, because I tie it all into NASA are liars, dude. I think that it's a money laundering front for the U.S. military.
The surface camera also had a key piece of classified technology inside of it. The lunar surface camera would have to capture a clear image in spite of high contrast between the bright lunar surface and the atmosphereless black sky. And the Westinghouse company had the answer. The company had developed a special low-light television imaging tube for the Department of Defense to use in a jungle surveillance camera during the Vietnam War, one that could find a downed pilot at night. The key was the sensitive image tube combining a variable gain light intensifier with a secondary electron conduction target. The SEC tube could reproduce objects in motion at low light levels without smearing the image. The Department of Defense allowed NASA to use this top-secret technology in its lunar surface camera, though it's likely few people who worked on the project for the space agency knew they were handling sensitive technology. You see how things are starting to come together? It's like, oh, that makes sense. How did they use that part for that? Well, let's go find our pilots that are dying in Vietnam. It was the camera that captured Armstrong's first steps, and it was stowed on the LM's descent stage in the modularized equipment stowage assembly in the force storage area on the left of the LM's ladder. The MESA released when Armstrong, standing on the lunar module porch, pulled the lanyard, allowing it to unfold. Though covered with a thermal blanket, the lens poked through its hole so it could see everything going on. Inside the LM cabin, Buzz Aldrin hit a circuit breaker that turned the camera on, allowing it to capture Armstrong's walk down the ladder and first steps onto the moon. The signal was sent from the LM antenna to the tracking stations at Goldstone, Honeysuckle Creek near Canberra, and the Parkes Radio Astronomy Site in New South Wales, Australia.
Okay, so this is how we we got the live television feed.
Yep, just a little bit.
I know there's going to be a live television
I just got
feed.
the tiniest bit more.
Okay, go ahead.
NASA used a scan converter to adapt the image to a broadcast standard format of 525 scan lines at the higher 30 FPS rate. Then the tracking stations transmitted the signals by microwaves to Intelsat Communications satellites and AT&T landlines to Mission Control in Houston, at which point they were broadcast to the world. The transmission process left the image significantly degraded, but it was still live footage of the man's first steps on the moon. That was on a popular science website, and you can check the sources. The Unified S-band system, NASA released restored Apollo 11 moonwalk video, television from the moon, ALSJ, Apollo television by Bill Woods.
Okay, so
that just explains.
Okay, here's how they filmed
happened.
Here's how they filmed it live. I'll concede they filmed it live. I'm still stuck on you can't get there. But so film what live? I still don't think they went to the moon. I was like I'm 50-50, and the more I think about it, I'm all the way there. There's
Oh, by the way, I brought you a worksheet from NASA for the Van Allen belts. I don't know if the camera can see that. There we go. And I know you don't always like to work hard, so I included an answer key.
Oh, perfect. Good. I'll lie about how many I got right.
Yeah.
I was like, oh, yeah, I was 10 out of 10 on these.
Yeah.
There's certain things. Okay, so I get to so let's just say we definitely went to the moon.
Okay.
We definitely broadcast it live. It all makes perfect sense. But there are things that NASA openly lied about. I mean, we conceded at the beginning of the show that they're murderers, you know? Now, there are things they've lied about. There's the famous pictures. I don't know if you've looked into the pictures.
Boom.
With the
I'm
double
ready
shadows.
for photographs,
yeah.
brother.
Now, there's photographic evidence that is, like, provably been falsified. There's that crosshair picture. Do you know about the crosshair picture?
I know about the crosshairs, brother.
Yeah, how'd the crosshair picture get
You
there
ready?
Like that? Yeah.
We're just going to discuss photos now, right?
I feel like we should explain it to the audience what I'm talking about.
Oh, they'll get it here in a moment.
Okay, yeah.
Okay, so we have there's plenty of photographs that are disputed.
Yeah.
First,
talk
and
about
foremost,
the shadows too.
That's right here first
Now,
on the
I've
list.
seen many explanations for that.
Lighting and shadows.
Yeah.
You know, they say it looks like a sound stage. I'm
Yeah,
sure you're
yeah,
familiar with. Oh, Stanley Kubrick
Oh,
directed
that's
it.
the part I wish I looked in more to because it's so fun.
Bro.
That's the most fun part.
I
of
hate
this.
that one
Yeah,
because
it's
it's
ridiculous. It's
complete
ridiculous.
nonsense.
Yeah.
Like it's completely unfounded and
Yeah, you
mere
know,
speculation.
Eyes Wide Shut came out 30 years
Yeah.
to the day
Yeah.
of the. That's just a fun part.
Yeah,
of it.
it's-
That's
it's
my
like-
favorite part.
Like it can be a fun conspiracy to discuss,
Mm-hmm.
but when people talk about things that like, there's literally nothing that points that other than guys going, "Hey, 2001: A Space Odyssey looked
Yeah,
pretty
yeah.
similar."
Yeah, right.
Get the fuck out of here.
Well, it's
okay.
Kubrick. He nailed it.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
One flew over the fucking moon, huh? So people talk about lighting and shadows, like there's multiple light sources, studio lighting,
Yeah.
shit like that. I actually have an answer from Roger Lannis with me, and he is a space historian. Again, did not know that was a thing until
Yeah,
this
yeah.
week. You know, that's a pretty cool title. I'm a
I should have put
space
that in
historian.
my bio.
What do you cover from the Big Bang to everything fucking else? What?
Yeah. I usually start before the Big Bang.
He says the multiple reflections and the studio lighting, the sun, the Earth's reflective light reflecting off the lunar module, the spacesuits, and the lunar surface were all the cause of light manipulation because everything's shining off each other. I didn't know this, but apparently with the lighting, when they were taking photos of the astronauts, their suits were like fucking equivalent of glowing
Okay.
in comparison to everything else. And it's
Because it's strange. There's parts of where Armstrong is in pure black. You can see.
Oh, yeah.
But his uniform shows. That's strange.
yeah. Oh no, definitely. There's anomalies.
Yeah.
But there's reasons for them. Like that's the thing too. I don't want to say like, oh, things don't seem weird.
Oh,
'Cause,
there's definitely some things that are shady about it.
Things seem weird, but there's reasons behind it.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? You just mentioned, where did all the stars in the background go?
Yeah.
You know, that's people latch on to that. Like, "Huh, If idiots forgot to put stars in the background.
Well, there's a huge part of when I talked about the press conferences when they first came back and they sat down, the three of them in a row, and it looked like they were being grilled by the principal. These guys are very nervous. They're looking at each other. I'm going just on body language. This is all, just you're just kind of just the field test here. But in one interview, Buzz Aldrin says it was unbelievable. You could just see every single star in the sky. It was like there were millions of them. You can see a week later when they're not together, they ask Armstrong, and he says, I don't recall if I saw any stars or not. You're the first man ever in space. You're an astronaut, and you don't recall the stars. I went camping 2 weeks ago. I'll never forget how beautiful the stars were. You know what I mean? You're up in space, and I'm not sure if I saw stars or not. There's just so many of those that I filled my head with for too long.
And I get that. And I just want to say, as far as like discrepancies in interviews, they're not true. But just because he says something that sounds suspicious doesn't disprove anything. See, that's the thing. They gave you all this evidence. Here's the moon landing. It happened. Here's all our proof for it. And everyone says it's fake, but no one has disproven it yet.
It's pretty hard to disprove it. It's to prove a negative. And the biggest thing I keep going to is the telemetry data. They lost it. It was a metric ton. What kind of bonfire do you have to lose a metric ton of telemetry data?
You're absolutely correct.
You're
so absolutely
bizarre.
correct. From what I understand, we have lost atomic bombs out there.
God.
We've lost submarines. Like, there's big fucking things we lose. And I get it. It's for NASA, and people distrust the government. I get that. But it is not necessarily a conspiracy because they're fucking stupid.
They said they taped over because you want the original film because you can tell, there's easier things you can prove that have or have not been doctored off the original film. They said they taped over it because of budgetary issues in the 70s. What a Friends marathon was on? You taped over the original moon landing tapes? Like, that's an unforgivable sin, dude.
I taped over my 5th grade graduation.
Yeah, that's almost as
because
important.
of budgetary reasons. I taped Soul Train, an episode of Soul Train. I was about 12, and Soul Train provided me with more entertainment than my
that's excellent.
5th grade graduation did. My family wasn't as happy about it, but things happen, And as far as the no stars in the background, it's difficult to capture something very bright and very dim on the same bit of film. Something
they didn't have a hard time producing it live all the way back to America.
Setting the camera with proper exposure would render the background stars too faint to see. And honestly, this one's pretty easy because most photographers would just attest to that.
Yeah.
Like, that's like, it's fucking basic science.
Yeah, I don't get caught up on the stars not being in the photos. That's very explainable. But I do get caught up on the discrepancy between the two of them. I get caught up on Neil Armstrong going to the moon, the greatest accomplishment in history, and he gives like 3 interviews his entire life after that. One of them is a speech he's given to the best and brightest. I think it was at MIT. It was at some aeronautical, the next astronauts, and he says, you will be able to reveal something. I'm going to botch the quote a little bit. It's like, if you peel back truth's hidden layers, you'll be able to reveal something like the truth behind history. It was so cryptic. The guy says 3 things his whole life. One of them is feels like cryptic bait.
See, and that's another thing.
Bill Clinton believes we didn't go to the moon.
Bill Clinton
we'll get into that.
Is not if your rod of truth is Bill Clinton, you can leave this fucking show now, brother.
Rod.
They just released more shit with him being with 15 and 16-year-old girls on Epstein's fucking island. So Bill Clinton...
Well, they weren't on the moon, that's for sure.
If Bill Clinton doesn't believe the moon exists, that makes me think it exists. Or
it's an interesting thing.
Because anything he says,
of his book.
Fuck that guy.
Yeah, I mean, I get it.
I'm going to trust
NASA,
Bill
they're
Clinton.
good people.
I'm going to trust Bill Clinton on saying we didn't land on the moon.
I trust him more than Warner von Braun, who's a literal Nazi.
Warner von Braun is not NASA. NASA is the whole operation.
Yeah.
This is a guy who was not only president, who's not only... You know what? I'm going to fucking say it. Him and his goddamn wife have killed plenty of goddamn people.
Yeah.
People have been fucking suicided. He's been a fucking sexual predator his entire political fucking career.
Yeah.
But, he played fucking saxophone and jogged, so he got a pass. Fuck this guy. Fuck Hillary. If you got a problem with that, fuck Trump. Fuck Obama. If you're a politician, go fuck yourself in goddamn general.
You got to say, Bill Clinton will charm your pants off.
Bill Clinton.
Your literal pants. Right
at this point, would charm Bill Clinton's pants off.
Okay. Dude, I look at these are all the same people, in my opinion. Like,
I get that.
if the Clintons can murder people, we can pull off a moon landing hoax.
I think it's a lot easier to murder people. I know personally it's a lot easier to murder people than it is to get to the moon, and you can take that
I'll
with
ask
what
you
you
about
will.
that one off camera.
Just jumping back. I'm just sticking with
yeah.
photographs here.
Yeah.
People have a problem with the flapping flag, how it looks like it's flapping.
Oh, that's bizarre too. Yeah.
NASA designed a special flag with a horizontal rod in the top.
Yeah, I
because
know
they knew it would fall. However, they had trouble extending the damn thing.
Yeah.
Which caused it to have a ripple effect.
Yeah.
And if it looks like that in a photo, that's a great fucking photo op.
Yeah. I mean, I get it.
You know. Okay, but again,
But I'm more stuck on Neil Armstrong
We're
is
getting there,
showing in the depths of the shadows. But you brought that up with you said they had fluorescent suits.
we're getting there.
Yeah.
We're getting there. Crosshairs.
Yeah.
You
no,
just mentioned
that
crosshairs.
one's difficult.
They appear to be behind some objects,
Yeah. It's supposed to be on the lens, that crosshair, so it shouldn't be behind anything.
and it's not. That effect only appears on copied or scanned images and photos.
Well,
not
they
any
don't
of the
have
originals.
a lot of the original
They have the
photos.
originals.
They-
Just because
yeah.
we don't have the originals, they have the originals.
They don't have the telemetry data, and that's what that Ronald Pettit or Donald Pettit guy
we're
will
getting there.
attest
We're
to.
getting there.
It's bizarre.
We're getting there.
All right.
And that's just caused by overexposure. You know.
Okay.
Sometimes the crosshairs seem to be rotated or in the wrong place due to cropped or rotated photos due to aesthetic impact.
Yeah.
You know, like a lot of these things that people go on and on about have simple answers.
There's rocks that look to be man-made too, like
Boom.
perfect circle
With the
rocks
C's
and
in the
shit.
rocks?
Yeah. The letters on there. Yeah.
People mention the C's and the rocks. Could they be studio props?
Yeah. Right. This is Rock C.
Simple answer. It's printing imperfections. It's not on the originals, and they suspect it to be a coiled hair. You know.
I would love to see the originals because, like, that's one of those. Yeah, take our word for it. You know, no, it's not on the originals. Like,
I've seen originals without it.
yeah,
Yeah, I've seen originals without it. And on top of that, like, it's so weird to me how they latch on to certain things.
Oh, I just remembered this. There's footage that they aired of filming us as we fly away from the Earth, like that, and that you're looking at is Earth, and it looks like the size of a pebble because they're 238,000 miles away filming Earth. There has been footage released that proves they were doing a mock presentation of that. They did
Right
not
on.
film the Earth. That you can hear them in the background saying, it doesn't look quite right here. Try moving it this way. And it's literally like a black piece of paper held up in front of a camera with a hole in it. And then the light coming through that hole looks like Earth. And you can see that it moves, and you can see a guy walk in front of it. And you're like, oh, this is...
Right on. And without seeing that
they
video
did some bogus
or,
stuff.
or
Yeah,
knowing,
I wish we had
knowing
that,
its source, I
that
can't,
capability.
You know, I can't comment
We've
on
lost
that.
the technology.
I just also want to make a point to mention, like, the overall fucking size of conspiracy. You know, there's a saying, and I'm sure you've heard this before, 3 people can keep a secret if 2 are dead.
Yeah.
There was over 400,000 people that had worked on the Apollo alone,
Yeah. I mean, there's one guy who's cleaning the floors.
with over 20,000 companies involved.
Yeah.
That's a lot of people.
Yeah, I mean, I suppose only a few at the top. And it's like, it's not a secret. I know about it. I'm not on the inside. You know what I mean?
See, that's the best way you can say it, because that's funny. Like the way you put it.
Yeah.
If you just casually dismiss it. But I also want to mention, because it's not like this is a competition here.
Yeah,
I'm not going to convince you. You're not going to convince me.
I mean, I definitely, like I said, I have doubts. Like, you know, my hero, Alex Jones, you know, he believes we went to the moon.
Alex
he takes a
Jones.
Non-traditional stance.
Alex Jones is so full of shit. I was
Dude,
listening
he
to him
has,
this morning, actually.
Oh, really?
From the original Joe Rogan interview, the episode 9/11.
Oh, it's such a good one.
And he's just... What it is people get on these rants and they scream and they just go off, and they're by themselves usually, like Alex Jones. So they have no one rebutting them, no one fact-checking them, and then it just gets put out into the airwaves. But when there's a conversation, we can actually check facts. Things are a lot fucking different, because anybody can say, oh, they're killing babies and eating them, and that's what they're using to propel us to space.
Huh.
Yeah, these are outrageous fucking claims.
He has...
And no one has proof of it. And even if they were, which is such a fucking stretch, it's not going to be public knowledge. So you can just say shit
Alex
into the
Jones
ether.
deserves a Pulitzer Prize for excellence in journalism, and he'll never get the respect he deserves. You know how many journalists just outright lie all the time? Alex Jones does that, and,
I would
he's
give
wrong
Alex
about a lot.
Jones an award as a performer.
Oh, yeah.
But
dude.
not a
He's definitely
journalist.
Dude, he exposed the Bohemian Grove. That's one of the
Jesus
most
Christ.
incredible things that have
Jesus
ever
Christ.
happened. Dude, there are billionaires who worship Satan in
What-
the woods
what
and light
came out
owls
of
on
it?
fire
What
in
came out of
robes.
it? What
No,
ca-
that he ended up losing his radio show,
Oh.
and then he ended up going on the internet, and then they kicked him off the internet.
Oh, so he didn't do
That's
anything.
what happens to truth tellers.
So he didn't
Yeah,
expose
this
anything.
thing's going to be buried in the algorithms, this episode.
And I just want to mention, before we get off here,
Yeah.
the rest of the missions. There was Apollo 12, November 19th, 1969, Apollo 14, February 5th, 1971, Apollo 15, July 30th, 1971, Apollo 16th, April 21st, 1972, and Apollo 17, December 11th, 1972. So for a while, for those 3 years, they were cranking them.
Yeah,
You know,
yeah, and
they
then
were
never
shipping
again,
them.
and then never again.
You know.
It became cost prohibitive after the fourth one
I will say,
or sixth.
as far as everything goes, I enjoyed this episode. I thought it was quite fun.
Yeah, dude, you've got some lifelong information. I'm glad that we did this because you really looked into the conspiracy. I mean, you were bringing up stuff that I completely forgot.
I like
about.
to do my homework.
Yeah, you did it,
I
man.
like
I
to
love
prep. Trevor, where can the people find you?
I mean, really, honestly, right now, locked in my own home, hiding from the virus.
I-
you know what
I
I mean?
meant
There's-
online,
Yeah,
you
there's
know?
nothing. You can find me at Trevor Austin Comedy on Instagram, which I post once a month on, and then, I'm on Facebook right now. Really, everything's just kind of ground to a halt. You know what I'm going to plug? I'll plug Regular Episodes podcast with Aaron Douglas. I'm a regular on that. And I was going to say, we'll have some more time. Maybe we can come on there, and you know how free form that show is. Maybe we can, maybe we can yell a little louder about this stuff.
I will say, check out Regular Episodes, Aaron Douglas.
Yeah.
I'm going to take this time to shout out a couple podcasts.
Do it.
Greenfield's Finest with Mike Seidel. Check that out. Check out the Babyface Assassins podcast with Jeff Fieldhouse. And if you like this, kind of in the same vein, I am on another show with Dan Brady called What in the History.
Mm-hmm.
Go ahead and check that out. Quick announcement as far as my personal life goes. I work for an Audi dealership as a lot attendant. I have decided to venture out and start my own detailing. So hopefully I'll be up with that within a few weeks. And I'm rocking with the name. I'm thinking Tenacious Detail.
Oh, that's perfect.
Yeah, I think I look like a
You get a good
combination of
pun.
both members. It's a good pun. Tenacious
it.
Detail. There'll be more information about that soon. Just give a heads up. You can find me at facebook.com/HunicanJohn or facebook.com/Inquisitive Minds podcast. We are at Inquisitive Minds podcast at gmail.com, and we're also on Instagram. We've recently been uploaded to Anchor, so you can find us now absolutely anywhere you listen to podcasts. Spotify, Apple Podcasts, Stitcher, all that shit.
Yeah.
Pop-Tart? iHeart.
Oh, nice. You
all-
got a good thing going here.
All
man.
that sexy shit. Shout out to Idiot Radio, and thank you guys for tuning in.
Thank you for having me.